This isn't just about cars, it's about control, ambition, and the future of the planet. In 2024, something odd happened. Ford, one of America's most iconic automakers, pulled back on its electric truck plans. Not because they wanted to, but because they couldn't keep up. Meanwhile, across the ocean, China's sleek electric vehicles were flooding global markets. Affordable, fast, ubiquitous. And behind them, a massive machine of strategy, science, and state power. So how did China quietly win the EV war? And is it already too late for the rest of the world to catch up? The American EV crisis. Ford's electric dreams hit a wall in 2024. The F-150 Lightning, their much-hyped electric pickup, was supposed to lead the EV revolution in the US. Instead, it stalled. Sales fizzled. Production was slashed. And the reasons went deeper than bad marketing. American drivers were hesitant, not because they didn't want an EV, but because they couldn't afford one. In a country where the average new EV costs over $55,000, the electric future felt out of reach for the average buyer. The heart of the problem lies in the battery. It's the most expensive component of an electric car, sometimes making up nearly half the total cost. If batteries remain costly, mass adoption stalls. Ford knew this and looked for ways to bring battery production home, to lower costs and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. That's when they turned to a technological powerhouse, CATL, the world's largest battery maker headquartered in China. Ford planned to partner with CATL to build a battery plant in the US, exploring locations like Virginia and Michigan. But the political climate was tense. The idea of a Chinese company having any role in American infrastructure sparked backlash. Virginia's governor pulled the plug, citing national security threats tied to China's influence. Caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war, Ford's plan unraveled. It was a wake-up call. Even the might of Detroit couldn't go electric without leaning on China. And that dependence raised an uncomfortable question. Who really holds the keys to the EV future? China's strategic head start. 2 decades ago, China faced a looming energy crisis. Its appetite for oil was growing fast, and much of that oil had to be imported. At the same time, its cities were choking under layers of smog, much of it from gas-powered cars. For Beijing's policymakers, the message was clear: relying on oil was a dead end. So they made a bold bet to skip the gasoline era and go electric instead. But this wasn't just a speech or a slogan. China backed that vision with money, muscle, and policy. In 2009, they began rolling out a national strategy to promote what they called new energy vehicles. The idea was to help Chinese automakers leapfrog past the internal combustion engine, where they couldn't compete, and seize leadership in electric technology. The support came in waves. Billions in government subsidies were handed out to car manufacturers, to battery makers, and to buyers. State-owned banks gave out low-interest loans. Local governments handed out cheap land. Research institutions received massive funding, and cities like Shenzhen helped by electrifying their entire public bus fleets, creating instant demand for electric vehicles from companies like BYD. Even consumers got a taste of this support. Buyers of EVs were offered direct cash incentives, cheaper registration, access to bus lanes, and preferred parking spots. Electric vehicles were marked with green license plates, a symbol of both status and state backing. All this created a fertile ecosystem where Chinese EV makers could thrive. By the time foreign automakers realized what was happening, China already had the infrastructure, market, and momentum. It wasn't just a head start. It was a whole new race, and China was already sprinting. Battery supply chain, China's hidden power. The secret behind China's EV dominance isn't just the cars, it's what powers them. Beneath every electric vehicle lies a complex battery, and behind every battery is a global web of mining, refining, and manufacturing. China doesn't just participate in that web, it runs it. A typical EV battery, especially the lithium-ion kind, relies on 4 essential components: the cathode, the anode, the electrolyte, and a separator. Each of these parts is made from materials like nickel, cobalt, lithium, and graphite, minerals that are scattered across the globe. But while the mines may be in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Chile, or Australia, the next step in the process, refining, often ends up in China. That's because refining is messy, expensive, and environmentally damaging. Many developed nations have offloaded this stage. China embraced it, building out the facilities needed to process raw ores into battery-grade materials. Today, China refines over 60% of the world's lithium and dominates the production of cathodes and anodes. It doesn't stop there. Chinese companies also manufacture most of the battery cells themselves, using equipment and processes they've honed over years of investment. Companies like CATL and BYD control vast production lines capable of churning out batteries at scale, quickly and cheaply. And because many of these firms started with consumer electronics decades ago, they were already experts in miniaturized battery tech. Transitioning to car batteries was simply the next step. By the time other countries began building battery plants, China already owned the entire ladder, from raw material to finished product. In the race for EVs, owning the supply chain isn't just an advantage, it's checkmate, the LFP revolution. If the battery supply chain gave China control, battery innovation gave it power. While Western automakers chased range and speed using expensive materials like nickel and cobalt, Chinese companies took a different route. They rewrote the battery itself. The result was the rise of LFP batteries, lithium iron phosphate. These batteries don't use nickel or cobalt, two of the most costly and geopolitically sensitive elements in battery production. Instead, LFPs are made from more abundant, less expensive materials, making them safer and cheaper to produce. For a long time, LFP batteries lagged behind in performance. They offered shorter driving ranges and weren't taken seriously outside of China. But that changed fast. Chinese companies, led by CATL and BYD, figured out how to push LFP technology further. They improved energy density, enhanced charging speeds, and even reimagined the physical structure. In 2023, CATL unveiled an LFP battery capable of adding 370 miles of range with just a 10-minute charge, a breakthrough that stunned the industry. Meanwhile, BYD introduced the Blade battery, a long, thin LFP cell that packs more power into less space. The innovation wasn't just technical, it was strategic. With these advancements, Chinese automakers could produce EVs that were not only more affordable, but also highly competitive in performance. As global demand for EVs grows, the world is quickly warming up to LFP, and nearly all of it still comes from China. In the race for better batteries, China didn't just catch up, it leapfrogged. China goes global. China's EV dominance didn't stop at its borders. As demand for electric vehicles surged worldwide, Chinese battery giants began planting flags overseas. CATL, the world's top battery producer, built massive plants in Germany and announced plans for another in Hungary, both designed to supply European automakers hungry for cheaper, high-performance batteries. But the real twist came when CATL struck a deal with Ford. After being blocked in Virginia, Ford moved forward with plans to establish a CATL-supported battery facility in Marshall, Michigan. The project immediately sparked political backlash. Critics warned that Chinese influence was sneaking into American infrastructure. Congress launched an investigation. Still, the deal stayed on track, a testament to how vital Chinese technology has become. These moves are more than business deals. They signal China's strategy to entrench itself deeper into global markets, not just by exporting batteries, but by manufacturing them in the heart of its competitors' economies. With advanced LFP technology, rock-bottom costs, and a global footprint, China isn't just making batteries, it's making the rules. And for countries like the US, the choice is becoming clearer: embrace Chinese tech or risk falling even further behind in the EV race. The US dilemma. Faced with China's commanding lead in electric vehicles, the U.S. is caught between two competing imperatives: building a self-reliant EV industry and quickly transitioning away from fossil fuels to combat climate change. These goals are colliding more than ever before. To reduce dependency on China, the Biden administration imposed new rules. EVs must contain less than 50% China-sourced battery components to qualify for federal tax credits. The impact was immediate. Only about 20% of EV models met the requirement. That means fewer eligible cars, higher prices, and slower adoption. The U.S. is responding. Billions are being funneled into battery plants, mining operations, and advanced research. Bloomberg projects that meeting domestic battery demand will require $82 billion by 2030. The ambition is real, but building a new supply chain from scratch takes years, time we don't have as the climate crisis worsens. For now, U.S. automakers still depend on China's battery tech. The uncomfortable truth remains: without China, the American EV dream struggles to take off. The EV race is more than innovation. It's about control. China built the batteries, the supply chain, and the market. Now the world follows its lead. As the U.S. balances national security with climate urgency, one thing is clear: the path to electrification runs through China. The question is, who will drive the future and who will follow?